Hello, my friends. Natalie Areola here. Today, I want to talk about downtime or periods of low or even no productivity in your artistic practice. We are frequently made to feel as though we must be working at breakneck speed every minute of every day if we ever expect to accomplish anything with our work. This is especially true today as we are bombarded by messages about maximizing productivity and how to become a high performer. We get so caught up in this insistence on constant production that we fail to recognize the value in our static periods. When I talk about static periods, I'm not talking about total absence of meaningful activity. If we're sitting around doing nothing but watching television every day, that's not going to help us much, and it's certainly not going to feel good or be conducive to growth. What I'm talking about are periods of passive activity. Maybe that sounds like an oxymoron, but we can and do act passively all the time. For example, reading a book is a passive activity. When we read a book, there is effort involved. We are exerting a certain degree of energy, and depending on the book, maybe even a great degree of energy in order to read and comprehend what we have read. But reading is all about absorption. We aren't creating anything new. We aren't building something of our own. We are taking in the words and ideas of someone else. In this sense, reading is a passive activity. But I think we will all agree that it is an essential one that leads to immense growth in our mental and emotional life. There are periods in your artistic practice when you need to take a step back. It is important that we become aware of the difference between being stuck or blocked and simply needing time to process. Recently, I took a big break from my photography practice. It was something I absolutely needed to do, as the last year was a challenging one for me in some truly unexpected ways. And I needed to step back and allow myself to absorb everything that's been happening. Coming back to my artistic practice in the new year has felt a bit stilted. It would be easy for me to become frustrated about this. It is frustrating at times. Sometimes I can't help myself from being swept up in the sense that I must produce and I must do it now. This is when I have to remind myself of how vitally important these passive phases are. In these cycles, we grant ourselves the time for rest necessary to our personal expansion. We recognize that rest is not something that we have to earn, but that it is essential to our ability to feel whole. And it is here within the space of this breathing room that we encounter deep, meaningful growth more profoundly than we ever do in our productive periods. In my experience, these intervals typically bring me to a pivotal realization, something that I have been building and working toward for weeks, months, or even years, that cannot move fully into consciousness until I take the time to slow down and listen. You might call these epiphanies or aha moments. When we're moving a million miles a minute, it is impossible to open ourselves up to revelation of this depth. Our minds and our bodies require cycles of decreased activity in order for us to become receptive to what the unconscious holds in store for us. These static intervals allow us to absorb, process, and uncover, and they are crucial to our artistic and personal growth. We read, we look, we listen, we meditate, and if we're willing to be patient with ourselves, we come out of it stronger and wiser than ever before.